So you've started making some money on your side hustle, or you've got a new business and you might be wondering, when do I have to register for GST? In this 5-minute business basics video, I'll go through when you legally have to register and also when you might want to register even though you don't have to. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started. This is general advice only, it's not specific to you, so you shouldn't consider it tax or legal advice. You can read more about the disclaimer in the description, but let's get into it. Firstly, you must register for GST from day one if you're a taxi or rideshare driver like Uber or Didi. So let's put that aside because you guys and girls have to get registered from the start. Now, if you're neither one of those businesses, then there is a threshold at which you need to register for GST, and that's $75,000. Now, there's sometimes some confusion around this. Sometimes people think, well, it's not until I've earned that much in a year or billed that much that I have to register. But there is some distinction here that's really important. The $75,000 threshold applies at either of when you reach $75,000 of invoicing for the year, or you project that your current month and the next 11 months, so basically 12 months worth of income, is going to exceed $75,000. So let me explain that by way of an example. If you're only invoicing $5,000 a month at the moment, that would mean that your total income for a 12-month period would be $60,000, 5,000 times 12. In that case, you're not obligated to register for GST. But let's say, for example, your business has started off at $1,000, $2,000 a month, and you're not looking like you're going to get to that threshold. All of a sudden you bring on a big customer, you're starting to invoice at $10,000 a month. Well, of course, if you project that out over 12 months, 10,000 times 12 months is $120,000, and you must register for GST from that first month that you get to, in this case, $10,000. Now that $75,000 threshold applies to all businesses except for non-profits, and their threshold is $150,000. Now, if you don't get this right, and this was one of the things that was difficult when I was an accountant, people coming to me and having not registered on time, you have to backdate that registration and pay that GST to the government. But the good news is you can also claim back GST on your purchases that are GST rateable. So it's not all bad news. So now the question is, if I'm not required to register for GST, why should I, or why would I want to register early? Well, if you're normally transacting with other businesses who are also registered for GST and can claim GST back, you are best to register for GST as soon as possible, because when you invoice that customer, they can claim the GST back, but it also means that any purchases that you make related to your business which incur GST, you can claim that back from the government. So let's use an example to illustrate this. If I invoice a customer for $1,000 plus GST of $100, so $1,100, if that business that I invoice is registered for GST, they get to claim back $100 from the government, so it only costs their business $1,000. If I then have some inputs, let's say I purchase some stock for $550, I get to claim back $50 from the government for the $550 purchase that I made. On the other hand, if most of your customers are consumers, mums and dads, everyday people who aren't registered for GST and can't claim it back, you're best to hold off on registering for GST as long as possible, because it puts you at a price advantage to your competitors. So let's say I'm not registered for GST and I do hairdressing, probably not the best profession for me. If I charge $80 for a haircut and you're a consumer, you only pay $80. I don't have to give any of that money to the government because I'm not registered for GST. But if Jenny next to me here, she's also a hairdresser, if she wants to have $80 of income, she needs to charge $88 if she's registered for GST, because that $8, that 10% on the top, she needs to give to the government. And so she's charging $88. If I'm not registered for GST, I'm only charging $80. So I'm at actually a price advantage compared to competitors who are larger and registered for GST. Of course, the downside is that I don't get to claim any GST back from my purchases. So the general advice is, if you are working with direct with businesses, it's best to register for GST as soon as you can. If you're dealing with customers, consumers who aren't registered for GST, then it's best to hold off as long as you can. Now, of course, to make sure that you are getting it right, you need to have some sort of accounting system. Of course, if you're not making a lot of transactions, you can just do that on the old pen and paper or a spreadsheet. Otherwise, if you're getting more sophisticated, it's good to use a cloud accounting software, something like a Xero, where you can track your sales, because if you don't register on time and you have to backdate, it can be a painful and costly exercise. So make sure you keep recording your transactions from the start and checking every month to see if you need to register for GST. But as I said, check with your accountant. This is just general advice. Meet with them, find out what you really need to do, and enjoy building your business. And if you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and follow for more business basics tips, as well as tips on how to make your business profitable and family friendly.